Welcome to JWL Sports, where we review all the best sports clips from around the world. If this is your first time checking out a video, please do consider subscribing. We are building an amazing community here, and I would absolutely love to see you part of it. Without further ado, let's get to it. We're watching a clip of The Herd with Colin Cowherd talking about Justin Fields' his trade. It seems like we're getting conflicting reports about whether or not Chicago may or may not be interested in trading Justin Fields. And I guess Albert Breer has come out and said otherwise. So it's just interesting because before people were talking about Fields to the Steelers, but now it seems like Russell Wilson is going to be going to the Steelers, and apparently Russell Wilson may be open to taking a veteran's minimal, whatever it is. And so pretty much getting like nothing, which obviously, no matter who you are, that's obviously a great deal. So I would say minimum. What did I say? Minimal? I knew it didn't sound right. Veterans minimum. It's one of those things where Justin Fields needs, in order to succeed, he needs a perfect situation. Not a good one, not a great one, not an okay one. He needs a perfect situation. And the question is, well, where on earth is that, right? And I don't really know personally, so I'm really curious to see what team really wants to do that. So I'm going to see what Colin has to say, and then we can break it down from there.
Framework for a Justin Fields trade, Bears quarterback, could be in place this week. So the bones of it are happening this week. Can we all now finally just admit all this Bears are keeping Justin Fields rumors was all just to keep his trade value high? If Chicago bailed on Justin Fields in week 8 or 9, what would he be worth today? I mean, the guy hasn't had multiple touchdown passes in a game since week 5, and they've gone out of their way, even when they missed Chase Claypool, DJ Moore. They got him another tight end, a lot of draft capital on the O-line. You can't keep blaming the Bears. They went and got some good pieces. Bryce Young, he doesn't have anything to work with. Justin Fields' O-line is middle of the pack. His final 7 games this year, 5 touchdowns, 3 picks, completion percentage around 60%, and a passer rating in the low 80s against mostly lousy teams. But the Bears smartly would go out and say, very smartly, look, this will be a very tough choice for us. We like what we see. We see somebody who's getting better. I don't, but I understand the game plan. It's year 3. His passing numbers are flat. His running numbers have gone down. We can put it on the screen for you. So, and again, they've added pieces. The Chicago Bears aren't perfect. Chase Claypool did not work. I appreciated the effort. DJ Moore's an excellent, absolute bona fide #1 receiver. Cole Kmet, very fine tight end. The O-line's fine. And for the record, he doesn't win a lot of games, and that's a problem. Don't listen to the analytic nerds. Good quarterbacks win close games. He is a dreadful fourth quarter quarterback, the worst in the league. Chicago media, their opinion of him is just not reality. Everybody else sees it. The Chicago media all season long tried to defend him.
So I just want to pause real fast because I want to say that all the commenters in Chicago, or all the people who comment on this channel, they all love Justin Fields. They all want to keep Justin Fields, and they all are downplaying how good Caleb Williams is or will be, which is shocking to me. I mean, please let me know. Why do you guys love Justin Fields so much to the point where you're saying we don't even want Caleb Williams? I mean, I find it genuinely shocking.
Elevate him, protect him, promote him. Maybe they're watching Ohio State film. But if you look at his second half stats in his career, 3rd and 4th quarter, so this is when you're off script. Now it's up to you. No more script. It's up to you. 3 years, his career, second half stats. 77 passer rating, 58% career completion percentage. You know what that is? The guy I keep comparing him to, Zach Wilson. But New York media never defends Zach Wilson.
True.
They call it as they see it, as they should. I respect that. Chicago media, this guy deserves another year. He is, in the second half, Zach Wilson. Highlight tape, moves pretty well, good arm, not efficient, not accurate, off script, very limited. The New York media calls it the truth. The Chicago media has been protecting him and buying into this. We really like him. Stop it. Come on. You're not hoisting a trophy. Caleb Williams is way. Drake May. If there was no Caleb Williams, Drake May's too talented to pass on, in my opinion. But the bones are in the work, according to Albert Breer, as they should be.
Now, okay. There's a few things I want to say. And I'm going to beat a dead horse with this one because this is just what I really firmly believe. When you don't have an offensive head coach or you don't have a great OC, evaluating quarterback play is very, very difficult because you just don't know, well, what are we doing here, right? Is it because if you know you have a great quarterback or you're confident in that at least, and you're not playing well, then you can maybe say, okay, this OC is not good enough, right? Like we saw Jalen Hurts have 2 different years, obviously, because since they're 2 different years, but one season played amazing. The next season, he did not. And we're like, okay, well, what's the common denominator here? Or, what's the common denominator is Jalen Hurts, and what was the variable of change? It was, a bad OC and a bad DC. Okay, well, there you go. Get him out. That makes it easier. Now, if Jalen Hurts continues to play poorly, you can say, wow, okay, you know what? That one really great year he had, that MVP caliber year, was an outlier. Now, if we reversed it, where you're trying to figure out, where you just have a couple seasons where you're not having a good OC or a good offensive head coach, and now you got to fire an OC and get a new OC, and it's still not working. Like, you don't know what you have with a quarterback who is so young and so raw, like a Justin Fields. I do not think Patrick Mahomes would be thriving in Chicago. I just do not believe that. I really, really don't. Would he be better than Justin Fields? Yes, undeniably. But he would not be thriving. He would not be Patrick Mahomes. And I will use that example forever, as long as I have this channel, honestly, because it just makes the most amount of sense to me. And that's why I think in the future, defensive head coaches are probably really going to be incredibly rare. And then you're not, it's going to be easier to evaluate, honestly, right? Like, I think a lot of coaches may even take less chances on other quarterbacks in that regard. Because if you look at Justin Fields and you're another team, like, for instance, let's say the 49ers didn't have Brock Purdy, and they just had, right, Brock Purdy got injured, or Brock Purdy was just like, I'm quitting football. I think, like, right, Shanahan would look at a Justin Fields and say, what can I do? And I'm not saying he fits with his system, but would still be like, can I do something with him? Can I make it work? Like, is he failing because of the way how Chicago is run, because of their OC, because of their head coach? Like, can I do something with him? It can be like a real, actual question. But if Brock Purdy failed with Shanahan, do you really think, say now, McVay is like, what can I do with Brock Purdy? I bet you I can make that work. I don't think that. I don't believe that for a second. Right? I think, especially like, say, like a McVay is going to trust Shanahan and say, okay, you know what? If he's not good enough for him, then you know what? There's a good chance he's not good enough for me. And so that is what makes some of these situations. Actually, that's kind of why I hope we kind of still have defensive coaches and kind of, a carousel of different OCs and DCs for that matter, because then it makes it a little bit more difficult and fun to try to evaluate and figure out from a fan perspective. But with Justin Fields, it's like, again, where can he go right now to succeed? Because I don't see it. I mean, I think one of the better places is if CJ Stroud wasn't playing and they have their good OC, and if anything, Fields goes to the Houston Texans and is a backup and learns under CJ Stroud and learns from that OC and gets developed a little bit, and then hopefully maybe gets another chance in, say, like an injury situation. I mean, hopefully CJ Stroud doesn't get injured, but in that type of situation, or after playing for a couple years, then is gets another chance somewhere when, say, someone goes down and they really need a quarterback, and they say, okay, we'll take Justin Fields, like we see all the time with a lot of backup quarterbacks, especially this past season. I mean, we had quarterbacks moving all over the place. I think that's a potential, but for Justin Fields to just jump into a starting role, I just where? I mean, seriously, like, where can he truly succeed and thrive? He needs to be developed. You almost have to just throw out these last 2 years just out the door. And I'm not really sure. The last point that I want to bring home with Justin Fields is, and this is what I think happens, and this happens with a lot of players. This happens in life. actually, all the time, is people from the past make you, when you see someone that reminds you of someone else, whether it's in the past, whether it's in your personal life, you start to give those perceptions onto this person, even though they don't have that, right? It's kind of a stereotype in a way, but not exactly, because you're not talking cultural. You're not talking about like globally. You're talking about more individually, right? So this isn't like I see this race doing, someone of this race doing bad things, therefore all of these people in that race are bad. It's not quite like that. It's more like you have a therapist or a doctor, and he really reminds you of your dad, and now you start to like see your dad in him, and you think you have that connection like that, and it's like that's not your father. It happens a lot, especially in therapy. When you're a therapist, it happens on both sides, where the therapist sees the patient as maybe someone they know, and they start to treat him that way, or vice versa. It's happened to me. I actually used to be a drug and alcohol therapist at a men's inpatient rehab facility. And you would see it. Sometimes you would get a lot of rapport with patients, and they would leave. They would get discharged, and you would get a new one, and they would have a lot of similarities. And you would think that you already had that rapport built up with them, only to realize this guy doesn't know you at all yet, and even though it feels like it. And so I think with the Justin Fields, we see him, and he's obviously not a complete spaz, right? He obviously can play football. And since he's so twitchy and so quick and can escape and can run around in circles and can, go off and do some really exciting plays and make some really awesome throws, our mind starts to connect these dots. And we're like, I see some Mahomes, I see some Lamar, I see some like Vic or something, right? Like you start to connect these dots that don't necessarily connect. And especially in a quarterback like him, I think the biggest reason why this happens is because for the most part, right, you've always had these like traditional, statuesque quarterbacks, right? The Tom Brady's, the Mannings, things of that nature, right? That when you did have a more mobile, exciting quarterback, it was very rare, right? And so you had a Vic or someone like that. And it was very like, oh man, look at that. Or McNabb early on in his career. Doesn't matter. But so then those players stood out. So when they were there, you knew that they could play and you knew that they could win. Right? Michael Vick could win. So when now that's becoming more the default, what I'm trying to say is ultimately is that you saw more bad non-mobile quarterbacks, right? You saw some of these other quarterbacks who were statues and they just couldn't play. So it was very easy to be like, they're just not good enough, right? They're just not making their throws. They're not making their throws. They have terrible, accuracy, poor reads, all of these types of things. But now we're in this new age where mobile quarterbacks are just becoming obviously more and more the norm, right? And now it's kind of like if you're not mobile, it's like, does anyone even want you? And so now you have to figure out, well, how do we evaluate these mobile quarterbacks who still look like they can do amazing things, right? Like Justin Fields is still lightning quick and can still do amazing things that Tom Brady could never dream of doing, right? But that doesn't mean that he's a good quarterback. And that's the problem. We look at this and we see Michael Vick, we see Patrick Mahomes, we see, Josh Allen, right? We see some of these things and we go, he can do it. He can do it. I mean, like, look what he can already do. If we just develop this other aspect of this game, he can be fire. And it's like, you can say that about so many second and third string quarterbacks who are not mobile. You know what? If he could just have a higher, better accuracy. If he could just step up into the pocket a little bit better, or if he could just withstand the pressure a little bit, or, throw the ball away more consistently and not force the ball down the field in tight windows, he would be so good. And it's like, but he can't do that. If he could do that, he would be not the second or third string quarterback. He would be the number one quarterback. And so that's the thing with Justin Fields. But the big caveat that I give, which I've already gave, is that the problem is that I'm not fully ready to shut the door on him and just say he's obviously not done. Keep him as a second or third string quarterback, whatever. But it's a little bit of Mariota. Mariota was smaller and I don't think could handle the NFL as well. But it's just one of those things. I think we're still like excited by some of these quick quarterbacks, these fit quarterbacks, where you can really see the striations in their muscles and their biceps, and you're like, dude, this guy's a dude. He's quick. He's solid. Oh my god. You know, if we just got the right pieces around him and a good OC, who's gonna stop him? Well, you got to be able to do all those things, and it's not just that. We've seen plenty of quarterbacks have good OCs and good players and good head coaches, and sure, they play pretty good, and they are probably better when they versus when they don't have those things, but it doesn't mean that it's always enough. And so you got to ask yourself, does Justin Fields have enough? That's the question. But what do you guys all think? Those are just my thoughts. I would absolutely love to hear yours. I read every single comment. So if you think what I'm saying is the most ridiculous thing you've ever heard, please let me know in the comments below. If you think what I'm saying is the most amazing thing, then definitely please let me know. Either way, let's get into some discussions, let's get into some fights, but ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. As I said, we are building an amazing community here, and I would absolutely love to see you part of it. And please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up. It really, really does help with the visibility and the algorithm, and I would greatly, greatly appreciate it. Thank you so much, and see you next time.